Okay, so deck tech kind of Sisay. So this is the $100 version list. Runs most of like the standard things you'd expect off of Sisay. Even in CDH lists. I think the only big difference would be like, some would be running like Agatha's Soul Cauldron, right? Uh some of the expensive stuff, Cradle even, right? Like they have some Cradle stuff, but I digress. Let's just focus on like what's currently in the $100 version. So I'll probably like first start off with like what are like the expected win lines off of Sisay and um what's like her main game plan, right? Okay, I'll start with the main game plan. So the whole point of Sisay, right, is you wanna have her in like a certain power stat and then search for a legendary permanent, right? That's kind of like the main thing. Um, Getting to the 5 mana shouldn't be too hard, I would say, even though at times it would be pretty bad. But that's just kind of like the variance of the format. But the way I constructed the list is that everything that you want to cast anyways are like pretty much Bant centric. You still have like other colored cards that are like part of your main win lines, but it's mostly Bant centric. So green, white, and blue make it easier for us to have like a better mana base, and we won't have to stress too much around like, oh, how do I cast this? Like, let's say you have, let's say not what am I saying, Rakdos. You have Chainer, like the Rakdos one. I mean, you don't have to stress yourself out by like casting that because you don't happen to have like black or red, right? But yeah, so Sisei's main point is you literally have a shooter in the command zone, um, and that alone makes your game plan very, very simple to grasp because all of your power budget is put into the command zone. Understand that because your power budget is in your command zone, you have to be very careful at like, you know, choosing when's the right time to play your creature, right? Or you have to like politic well, say like, okay, I'm not gonna go win like 2 turns, stuff like that. Like just chill out. I'd rather you save your interaction for someone else's win attempt, right? Because I'm not winning right now. Like, why destroy my commander if I'm not winning right now, right? Um, so in a sense, your Sisay very much like a Magda. They're almost like the same thing, right? Searching for something in your deck and then like just tutor chaining off of that. So just those two analog comparisons, you kind of get like what the game plan is, right? So now that we know like what she wants to do, right? Like you want to get to 5 mana as soon as possible, 5 different colored mana, and then have a certain stat line on Sisay, so that kind of requires you to have some legends on board, right? Typically, they're going to be like mana dork legends, anyways. So not only do we get to like develop our mana, we can also like develop our board state, right? Well, okay, touche, but you can still you're kind of like hitting two birds with one stone here, right? Now, how do you win? Well, like, what are the things you shoot or chain for, right? So I think the most primary thing um to know, very very classic line, right? Salvala and Fabro Elder. The deck used to be on Bloom Tender too, but the budget is like, out again. Like it was just briefly the deck for like a couple days, and then like the budget's like out. Like okay, you're getting cut immediately, so you're gone. But yeah, Fabro Elder and Salvala, what they do for the deck is they're able to tap for all 5 colors, right? If you have enough permanents of different colors for Fabro Elder, you can tap for 5 mana. Yes, I understand that since for like band centric list, you can't have all 5 colors in the deck. I mean, sure, but that's totally fine because even with like 4 mana on the Fabro Elder, as long as you're like netting mana with the Fabro Elder, you're just like you have extra mana every time you like loop into that. So once you like establish the loop of having infinite extra mana of any color, whatever color, now you can start, flickering the review with no need to like, untap your Fabro Elder, and you can just untap like other lands that you have that like tap for the color that you need to start tutor training, right? Like these are all the things that you have to think about when it comes to like how you sequence your combo loops, right? So that's how Fabro Elder does it. As for Selvala, now this is based off of, the creature with the highest power that you have on board. Usually it's going to be Sisay, and many times going to give you like 6 mana, right? Because with Sisay out, and then like enough legends, plus 3 on like a legend is kind of like around 5/5 Sisay, right? Yeah. And then maybe you have a Tyvar in play, right? Which I'll get into in a moment, but that's around +4/+4, which gets you a 6/6 to say for the most part, right? And the basic gist is like as long as you're netting extra mana each time you loop into this, you're going to dump it into Emil the Blessed, which reads, you're gonna exile target creature and then put it back, so like a flicker effect. And you can't just flicker your creatures, right? You have to flicker like something that untaps them. For example, your Derevi, your Flash Thompson, and the aforementioned Tyvar earlier. This one allows you to actually just flicker the mana dork, right? Flicker the mega dork is probably the better way to call it. It's like since they all have haste anyways, you're just gonna go back in and you can tap them immediately, which is fine, right? So that's pretty much like the whole idea of this. It's always like a pairing, right? Emil the Blessed plus the Revi slash Flash Thompson, and then you have like a big dork, and then just make mana off that, right? So the nice thing to think about Salvala too is like it's also tutorable, right? So one of the here's a pro tip number one is like if your Sisay is a 4/4, right? So you have one legend that gives you +2/+2. Um, it's enough to like end step a Salvala into your turn and then just win from there, right? I mean, at some point people are gonna start figuring out that's a window to interact, sure, but that's a good thing to think about. Like if they, for some reason don't do anything to your board, you have 5 mana and you have a 4/4 Sisay, that's a line you could go for, right? 100%. Now, the next combo line is to think about is the Yoreth lines. This is kind of, I would say, newish. Well, it's kind of old now, but um, it really popped off ever since the Dockside ban. But the basic idea is, with the printing of Marvin, used to be like Sakashima, but now we have Marvin. Yoreth has abilities where you're able to untap 2 legendary permanents. I mean, legendary creatures. Sorry, and this includes Marvin as well. And Marvin has the same abilities as Yoreth has. So as long as you have other creatures that have, that give, a mana ability to certain creatures, like let's say, Katilda gets you mana, Sisay can tap for mana then, and then you can just keep on like dancing around the untapped. So you tap Sisay for mana, Yoreth is going to untap Sisay, and then your Marvin, I mean, after tapping your Sisay again, your Marvin will untap both Yoreth and Sisay, and then you tap Sisay again, tap Yoreth to untap Marvin, and then Sisay, and so on and so forth. Like same idea as your Enduring Vitality, right? As well as Relic of Legends, right? And this one has the upside of not actually needing a summoning sick creature, right? Well, doesn't need. It's okay to be summoning sick, basically. And then Giganta's like the other one. Although this is a little bit awkward, I would say it's still good to have in the list, by the way, because of how much mana you make in the deck. If the Giganta is just unanswered, then you just win the game, right? And usually people just don't really care. I mean, like, even if you put Giganta on the stack, like, okay, that dies. At least it's like oneness removal against Sisay, right? So you're still like happy. It's like think of it as like a removal magnet. If it's gone, it's gone. Fine. But if it's not, then you win, right? Um, but like that's the basic gist of it. You also cannot do it even though it's like a mega dork, you cannot use it on Emil lines. Simply because the Gigantha only gives mana that you can only use for non-generic mana costs, right? So Emil the Blessed is pure generic mana, so it's like three generic mana, so you can't actually use that way. So just think, just think, just a thing to keep track of, because maybe sometimes a lot of people sometimes like make the mistake of that, right? And then I think this is by far like the most classic line, like known to Sisay, right? Like all of these are like you could play it on other decks, but this is pretty much the Sisay combo that I would say is still like it's still playable to this day, but there has been like a huge movement of getting off of this combo. Me personally, I think it's still fine to play, especially in a $100 list. I still think like, and I'll get to that detail later, but like I still think like having a way to win off of a 2/2 Sisay is amazing, right? Yes, it's a sorcery speed win con, but you know many times people don't have answers to that, right? So they see like you have a 2/2 Sisse and like, okay, I mean, sure, you don't look like you're gonna win, and then somehow you are able to win. Although it does have a way to whiff, right? So the idea of that is like with a 2/2 Sisse, so meaning you don't have any legendaries at all on Sisse, you can search up Cultist of the Absolute because it's like one mana. You can search for this, and your Sisse suddenly gets to become like a 5/5, right? Actually, no, it's a 6/6. Cause you get +3 on this, and then on the black pip as well. So that's +4 +4. And then come on your turn, you're gonna get Tihada, right? And the thing about Tihada is you only really care about the -3. I mean, sometimes the other abilities matter, but it's really just a -3, right? Where you're able to like quote unquote mill cards off of the top of your library, and then for every legendary creature that you grab from those milled cards, you get one less treasure token, right? So typically what you want to happen is you take none of the cards from those four, which is going to, you know, get you more treasure tokens to like chain into extra onto the other parts of your combo, right? But this is kind of like where the whiff factor starts. It's like if you are able to, mill one of your shooter chain combos, then it gets much harder to continue on because um now you have to cast it, and then you're gonna be one less treasure token. So it's just so much worse, right? If you able to like mill one. The only exception to this would be Aminatu, right? Because she is a 3 mana legend, and even if you grab Aminatu off the milled cards, it's like you can just cast her. It's fine, but it also gives you extra room for like it's like an extra window for people to interact with, because now you put the card onto the stack, and now people are gonna be like, okay, I can just counter that, and then boom, you're kind of out if you don't have any protection for that, right? But the thing about Aminatu is like really just a -1 ability. You want this is like the same as Emil. You're able to like flicker a permanent that you own, so even lands, right? And then with that in mind, so after getting the cultist on someone's end step, you go to your turn. You have enough mana to get your Dihada because your CC is a 6/6. You just put your Dihada into play. Now you mill 4 cards, use 4 trigger tokens and 1 extra mana to find Aminatu, right? And then Aminatu enters, you can flicker your Dihada, mill 4 cards again. Hopefully you don't mill into any of your tutor chains here. And then do it again. And depending on like how much mana you have, question mark, um I would be mindful of which one I actually get first. Most of the time I find myself looking for Oath of the Fairy first. Um Simply because, uh if you actually no, it doesn't really matter which one you grab, but most of the time I try to get Oath of the Fairy first. Um right? Because now you're able to make your Aminatu flicker for one more time, because Oath of the Fairy gets you another activation on your Planeswalker's abilities, right? So you're going to flicker Dihada again, which is going to get you your Nicol Bolas Dragon God here. And the and then now you have the whole combo line assembled. So because your Nicol Bolas has the abilities of all Planeswalkers on the battlefield, this card also has Aminato's abilities, right? So you're able to flicker with this card as well. So it almost plays like the Marvin Yoreth line. So Nicol Bolas can flicker a land, it enters untap, tap it for mana, and then it flickers Aminatu so that she gets reset, right? Because it's a new game object. When you flicker something, it's a new game object, comes back fully reset. Now you can flicker the land again, untap it, and then make mana, and then flicker Nicol Bolas, and so on and so forth. And now you're making infinite amounts of mana, right? Um, so that kind of like is the main issue, I would say, when it comes to like Dihada. Like you can mill one of your cards. I mean, it's not the end of the world, but it's just something to think about. I mean, most of the time, like I what I like to do is I'll just do it, even if I don't have, even if I, even if I just have the minimum amount of mana to do the whole combo, I will do it, cause I mean it's either I have it or not, right? And if you don't have it, fine, you're not blown out, but now you kind of have like a huge target on your back. But again, I mean, since if you have Oath of the Fairy somehow, you could just like activate the Hada again and then give your Sisay indestructible. So I mean, you still have a turn, right? So it's like it's fine. It'll be fine. See another turn, hopefully survive, and then like just continue on where you left off, right? But those are like the main three lines I would say in the combo for Sisay. I guess like moving onwards to like the other stuff. Also, this one's like in the wrong tag as well. I already cleaned it up. Yeah, so I guess like how do we support the plan? I'll first start off with like the mana base that we have, right? Where is it? Here. So again, I mentioned briefly that the deck is mostly like green, white, blue. So our most of our cards are like actually green and then blue and white, and we barely even have cards here that are black and red. They're mostly like part of the tutor chains that we're already playing. So even if just think of it like you'll never really cast them, right? For the most part. What you will cast are like your development pieces and then maybe sometimes like some of your combo pieces that happen to be in your hand. But the Planeswalker line, if it's in your hand, it's just okay. I mean, go next, like go for the next combo, but you know it's not impossible to cast it, right? Because as you can see here, our mana production is like pretty decent, I would say. Like we have around 16 sources for our highest, for like the bulk of our deck, right? We also have like 13, 14, even though we don't even play these cards in particular, right? And then like white still has 15 mana producing lands. So, and to help with that, it's like a lot of it are from like the what do you call this? The rainbow lands that we play in the deck. Some of them are kind of weird, like for example, like Great Hall of the Citadel. I mean, the way I think of it is like it's still like an untapped land, and you can pay for like weird mana costs in in your creatures. Like for example, you have stuff like I believe it's creatures only. Let me check. Legendary spells, right? So if you happen to be like, you have it Urtai on hand, then it's like easier to cast that. Um, Tyvar, Sahelirai, like all of these like weird colored legends, like Aminatu, right? You can pretty much just cast it with the filtering off of this. And then same case with Courtyard, right? Like I understand like the good thing of this card at least is like it enters untapped. Plus it also taps for colorless mana. And it does suck, but I mean the only times where we're super super pip extensive is like creature based, right? and the colorless can just pay for some other generic costs for the most part. And the good thing is that you can spend this mana to cast creature spells of any chosen type. And as you may know it, we have a lot of humans in the list, and you can also like use it to activate abilities. So you could activate Sisay with this mana as well, right? And then yeah, everything else is just like spread out. I mostly went with the with the Painlands cycle because they enter untapped, and they kind of require the least amount of like working around with. Because if you play stuff like Snarls, stuff like Checklands, now there's like a whole world of like sequencing that you need to care about. And again, it's not even consistent because you need to have certain lands in play, right? So that's where I went with. I guess it could be an argument to run like fetch lands. I kind of am question mark. Like I'm playing Ash Barons at least, but when we talk about like the landscapes, I don't think it's worth running those things. Like if I'm gonna be playing like a tap land anyways, might as well just play like a tap land that like has extra, you know, extra utility like Path of Ancestry, right? Like since we're running a lot of humans anyways, just every scry one is like extra card selection that we care about, right? And yeah, and then like paintings are like super affordable nowadays. The only thing that's like making this mana base kind of expensive right now is Gemstone Mine, which by all means you could change out for something else. Totally fine. And yeah, and then that's kind of like the mana base thing. Next up is like I guess we'll just go up from here. Tutors, we are running like four, even though we have a tutor in the command zone already. I just think that they're fine to have. When we don't have Sisay, we get hated out. Having extra utility tutors are like still fine. Like you could still Court of Calling, even though you don't have a Sisay. Lively Dirge even gets back a creature from the graveyard. Ashley is such a good card, by the way. Nature's Rhythm, you can shoot her twice, though it's arguable that you could maybe just cut the card. Probably not even needed. And yeah, I mean, good cards in general, right? And then moving onwards to our ramp package, right? We're running like a pretty respectable amount. I think most of what we have access to, right? Like we have Avacyn's, Deep Shadow, like every one drop that we could think of. There's an argument to be made to like cut some of these because like, they've gotten really expensive. Like Deep Shadow, right? Like this is like $2.40, nearing three, man. So maybe it's time to cut it because it's starting to get phased out, right? We also are not running Utopia Sprawl because we just don't run enough forests in the list. And like Springleaf and Pollinator are just generically good enough cards. We run enough creatures to like warrant playing these cards anyways, so it's fine. Spirit Guide again, it's like hidden mana. There's an argument to be made to not to just cut the card. It's still good. I'm on the camp of like this card has like intangible upsides to it, right? Helps get you your like turn two signet into play, like lots of things, right? And then here's our turn two ramp. We actually aren't really playing a lot. Um, even though that might be a wrong idea. I probably would recommend to at least start playing, the band talismans, right? At least those. Just extra mana acceleration for you, because many times the deck can get kind of starved in mana, even though it makes a lot of mana. And as long as your rocks at least tap for blue, you'll always have enough interaction at all times, right? So just a consideration. That might be something I would consider adding into the list because the list is primarily banned anyways. I mean, you can just play. Well, I would also prioritize running you know the the blue pairings as well. So like Celestia, actually no, the Azorius and um the Simic talismans would be pretty good to have here, and then maybe like run the Signet counterparts as well. Maybe I don't think it's worth doing, but if you're running like this anyways, I mean, might as well just run those things because like this is getting expensive, man. But yeah, and I previously mentioned, right, like most of our legends are also mana dorks, right? If you can somehow find it in your list to include Lotho, right? Like let's say you cut like your Nature's Rhythm plus something expensive like your Elvis of Deep Shadow maybe and get Lotho in the list. This also that would also cut as turn to ramp. Lotho Corrupt Sheriff, right? It's an Orzhov creature that's like a smothering tithe. Whenever a player, casts a second spell on their turn, you lose one life and make a treasure token. Really good card, by the way. Um, it's by far the card that has made me win the most amount of instant speed game. Like, yeah, most amount of instant speed wins is from Lotho because you're happy enough to like sit back with all of the value, and if you have enough for like 10 mana, you could just chain into extra activations and just win from there, right? So another thing to consider, right? The next thing here is some of our interaction. I'm actually running like one quote unquote stacks piece. This slot used to be some sort of like, Lavinia. I used to be on Lavinia. I also used to be on like, extra protection spells like Pippin. Maybe Pippin's good addition here or like Skrelv. I don't really see anything wrong with that. But I think like with our pretty decent like counter magic, just having a way to like slow down your opponents at the same time like developing your board because of like the pips off of Spider Woman is good. Plus it taps for white and blue for from Catilda, right? Very relevant in all cases. I think this card's kind of much more decent to play than let's say Lavinia, because Lavinia is a card that's like a vexing bubble, right? If you cannot cast any non-creature spell that's like more than the amount of lands you have, and then free spells are countered. Typically, you don't really see that in $100 competitive. So this one instead actually stops like let's think of some popular win conditions, right? Like this kind of stops. Let me think. Soul Trader, like Warren Soul Trader loops, Chatterfang, because now your treasure tokens are entering tapped, right? It also like stops some really nasty combos in Inala, like one of my decks, right? It's also like really annoying. Well, not really. Um, I was gonna say like Rogue Thrust, but like it's all ETB anyways. You don't really care if they're tapped. I mean, there's like other things that are like really weird, that this could interfere with, and it's just generically like a decent enough creature to be played. I mean, it's fine, right? And then moving on to the rest of our interaction package as well. Yeah, now we have protection spell as well. Autumn's Veil, as again, this also can be counted as a counter spell, and then one of the nicest cards we got is Tam. Um, so Tam gives all your creatures hexproof from the colors, right? From their colors. So now Sisay is untargetable by Source of Plowshares. That's amazing. At all times, by the way. So again, I'm happy this creature got printed and like it's an easy enough shoe in into Sisay. This used to be like Pippin slot, but if you think that you care about not what do you call this? Slowing down your opponents as much, maybe consider playing, Pippin or Skrelv. I think they're really good cards. Though Skrelv's a little bit more expensive, but at least Pippin's not. It's like 40 cents, right? Also, here's Lotho, right? Just things to consider, right? If so, there's like so many things you can still tinker in your meta. Uh, unfortunately, I mean, we're not able to run Teferi, Time Raveler. It's also another Kutzil. So, what these cards are, they're basically like silence effects where it stops other players from casting spells on your turn. Right? See, each opponent can cast spells only anytime they could cast a sorcery. So, if all their instants are sorceries, then they can't really cast anything on your turn, right? So you're free to be protected and all of that. Kutsul pretty much does the same thing as well, right? But the only downside is like if you do it at end step and you have Kutsul in play, people saw that they still have a window to remove it, right? So if you think like you need the extra protection with over Kutsul, I would maybe consider swapping the two, right? Um, I think. I mean, I just saw Kudzos. It's like 170 right now, and it's like $4. Okay, maybe not. That's too much of a big jump, but if you find budget, sure, go for it. But like the good thing as well for Kutzil is like you're able to draw a card when you attack with creatures with +1/+1 counters on them, right? Like Sisay. So another way to make draw some cards. Um, and like the argument to be made here is like if you cast Kudzil I mean if you spin for Kudzil anyways, like you're gonna win no matter what, right? Like if they did not kill your Sisay then they let Kudzil go there. I mean that's cool that they made you that they gave you like a shooter, but I think it's arguable to say that if they let like if they let you spin anyways, it's fine, right? You'll be fine. And then our interaction suite, right? There's a lot of like you're a very very true turn 5 deck. I mean sometimes you go to turn 4 off of like the Dihada combo, but we're really mostly a turn 5 or even turn 6 deck. So it's kind of a good idea to have interaction on hand, and these are like most of the stuff that I like to have in the list, right? Suspend again, another source of plowshare is like really good. John Lock is like it's sort of like the two cards that I really like. Their removal spells and counter spells. Running it together is like fine. It's a 4 cents to bounce two things. I mean, that's good value, right? Serum Snare, the cool thing about this is like you can just bounce certain stacks pieces like Opposition Agent if your playgroup plays that, or Graph Digger's Cage, which stops you from like tutoring, right? Well, you can't tutor for creatures and or like grab stuff from your graveyard. That's such an important thing to note because like Graph Diggers does not stop the Planeswalker lines, by the way. So you still have a way to win through the Graph Diggers with the Planeswalker package, right? So I don't know if you're fighting against Activates, maybe you could consider that, right? Snapback is something that I really liked in the past, though I am on the fence of keeping it in Sisay, right? The biggest problem with Sisay, I'll probably like start talking about like the problem that Sisay has where you don't want to draw way too many cards, but you want to draw some cards, right? The reason for like not wanting to draw too many cards is that you're gonna draw into more of the stuff that you wanna tutor into, right? Through Sisay. Because now you're gonna have to put like um a spell on the stack and like that's up for like counter magic, right? And most of the time they're hard to cast. Like for example, like Nicol Bolas is hard to cast, like 3 black pips. So that brings me back to like this, talk with Snapback where you're not really drawing a lot of cards in Sisay, so it's kind of hard to guarantee always having a blue card on hand. I would I wouldn't even I wouldn't like be weirded out if you like um remove snapback. Like I would probably consider stuff like like shore up, right? Like shore up, magic damper, like these kinds of effects. Like we have 3 of them. I would maybe consider those instead, and like give your CC more protection, or untap like your mana dorks and just like go for the win for go for bigger wins, right? Just something to think about. If you think that your CC is getting killed a lot, that's one thing to think about. So yeah, I might consider removing this for something else, even though we're running a lot of blue cards. It's just that our cards in hand is so depressing. So if you like being hellbent all the time, I would probably like recommend this on like decks that have card draw in the command zone. But since we don't do that, yeah, Soul Partition is also really good. It just hits a lot of things, right? Exiles, Graph Digger's Cage. And sure, they could like recast it, but like many times the game's probably already over if you're going to remove a Graph Digger's Cage, right? Um, there's an argument to be made to like play Abrupt Decay anyways, which is an uncounterable removal spell that only hits 3 drops. I think I have it in my should be here at least. Yeah, I have not liked this card in for the most part. Like this felt really hard to cast no matter what point of the game you are. Uh like green black, I wouldn't even hold up green black at all. So it's just not even in the consideration at this point when for removal spells, right? So you also have to be mindful of like what kind of removal spells you run, because maybe sometimes you just don't have the mana for it. The only exception to this rule is like drawing the lock, um, which I mean I put in the effort to like add Demir lands anyways into the list. Like we're running River of Tears, and we have like a bunch more black sources here with like swamps and your Llanowar wastes, right? So it's gonna be fine to cast that. I'm happy to hold up blue and black every day of the week. So that's something to consider. These are your generically good. They also return non-land permanents, so it's pretty good. Also surveils one, so extra card selection, unsubstantiate, one of my favorite cards ever printed. You could it's a counter spell and a bounce spell at the same time, so very flexible. Touch of Spirit Realm is also one of our pretty nice uninteractable interaction here. So if you have like a Graph Diggers and you don't want it to be countered, then just cast this. Also, I did not realize it's $1.38 right now. Man, card prices are going up right now. So yeah. Urtai, yeah, again, just having a way to tutor a counter spell from your command zone is like a good thing. I mean, it's understandable if you don't want to be on this card. I get it. I would consider maybe like other cards similar to this, like maybe, what do you call this? Like Shalai or Sigarda, which gives your permanents like hexproof. It kind of does the same thing, except you have also like proactivity with this Urtai. And pro tip number two, actually, it's also like a really good way to win the deck, to win with the deck without having to play like some, I wouldn't say like bad cards, but you have like a pretty, you have creative ways to win with this, right? Like number one is like you could keep flickering the Urtai, and the thing about um Emil that people don't know about is that this card has a trigger effect, right? And Urtai can counter that trigger effect, and then since you're countering your own trigger, you can keep drawing a card. So yeah, now you have infinite mana. You draw your library off of like Emil and Urtai, and it's like okay, GG's, right? Or you could actually give someone's creature like indestructible, right? Off of Dihada. You could give other people's creatures indestructible, and then kill them with your Urtai, right? So their commanders are probably out, and then you give them indestructible. And since you're trying to destroy an indestructible thing, it's not gonna happen. It will just stay there, but they will still draw a card. So you could deck your opponents out this way and win the game that way, right? So in a way, we can still like run cheap cards to like win without having to spend without having to spend money on like expensive like finishers. I think one of the popular ways to win with the deck, it's not even I think it like it is the popular way to win in the deck is Mount Doom, which makes you ping opponents, but it's like $6. So again, I don't think it's worth running a $6 land card in $100 budget, right? If you could just win with other ways instead. Again, it's good to like share that part of the deck, right? So Urtai, I would say keep it in the list. It helps win games, basically. Sky Turtle is uncuttable in any deck that runs green blue. I would say like this card has been such a gas card every time, and it's uncounterable too. So it grabs stuff from from your graveyard, and it also can bounce a creature to hand. So pretty good. Counter magic, very very standard here. Running most of the one drops here. Dispel, miscast, spell pierce, and okay, I'm not running offer, right? Louis Wa is pretty good because we're running a lot of legendaries anyways. Spell Snare is also pretty good. On the with the context of knowing what you're gonna go up against, right? So for example, like if you're running like a lot against a lot of 2 mana counter magic from the control player, that's good against that, right? if you're running against, like, let's say, disruptor flute effects, maybe you could counterspell that because it's a 2 mana drop. It doesn't hit craft diggers, unfortunately, but it's fine because, I mean, it at least like hits some relevant stuff, right? If you think it's not good enough, I would probably just like swap this out again. You could just get like those shore up effects, right? Shore up, magic dumper. I forgot the other one, but it's like in Avatar, right? Wash away. You could make an argument to like cut this card. I think the card's still good. It's like a pretty decent, stacks piece, quote unquote. If your, if your opponents don't want their commander to get countered, so just show the card, like, like let's be chill here. I don't want to use my wash away. Like, let's do something that you wouldn't be you wouldn't be happy about, right? That's one way to do it, right? Like, the more that you can get out of your counter spells, the better it is, right? To have them, right? You don't want to be counter spelling a lot of things. Most of their counter spells are for our protection. But if you have to use it proactively, you need to make it so that it's as if you use them without actually ever using them, if it makes sense, right? Like, okay, I'm not gonna do this if you don't do that, right? Like some stuff like that, right? And again, drawing the lock and then substantiate are just, they're also counter spells. Unwind's also really good here since we like to hold up mana anyways. Unwind's another card to like consider as a free counter spell. But it might be bad now because, if it gets countered, like, dang, that sucks. Now you're like 3 mana less, right? So, and just to consider. Um, and it's also $1.36 now, bro. What's happening with these card prices? Repudiate and replicate. There is an argument to cut this card as well. Again, for the third shore up effect from Avatar, The Last Airbender. I just like it because you can create a copy of your own creature you control, and there's like some win conditions. Actually, there's a lot of win conditions that you could hit off of Repudiate, like the stifle effect that counters activated or triggered abilities are really good, especially against like, more combo-y decks, right? Like, I've used this against Magdas, against like, Thoracle lines. Like, you just, okay, I mean, demonic consultation is good to resolve with me. I'm just gonna counter your Thoracle trigger, and it's like, now you don't have a library, you're blown out, and then it's like GG's. And you could even cast this for like 2 green. Pretty good rate, right? And that leaves us to like the final two packages here. Our haste enablers, again, they're just here to, I've previously mentioned, like, Tyver helps you get haste. The good thing about Marvin is like you could play it at an early turn, and then once you get your Selvala into play, maybe, or your Giganta, now Marvin, it's as if you gave them haste, right? And Marvin can tap for that ability, right? Same case with Sahili. Though I don't actually use this as often. It's mostly here for like Fabro Elder, because having two Fabro Elders is balanced, I guess. Having 2 mana dorks that like tap for 5 colors is cool, but I have played around with lists that don't run Saheli Rai, and it's honestly like a fine cut. Like, you could cut the card, it's fine. You won't miss it. It's just here as extra utility, right? If you care about it. And then these are like our other cards that like draw stuff. Always been a fan of Once Upon a Time. This helps fix hands. Godzilla, as previously mentioned, draws cards. Selvala, on the other hand. Again, another cool thing to note, right? Now that you have infinite mana of Selvala, every time a creature, I say everyone's creature, by the way, so if other people can draw cards off every Selvala, but doesn't really matter. But whenever another creature enters, its controller may draw a card. If its power is greater than each other creature's power, you draw a card, right? And usually, Sisay, if she's a 7/7, she is the biggest creature on the board. So now what you can do is, with infinite mana, you can flicker your Sisay and then draw your library out through Selvala. Just something to think about, right? You have another thing as an out when it comes to like figuring out lines for your deck. Right. And then Gran here is actually kind of decent, right? Like, we don't actually need to attack with her. Um, you're able to basically draw with her if you have Relic of Legends out, if you have Catilda out, Enduring Vitality out, and she gives you card selection. I mean, she discards cards, and I mean, she still draws cards, right? But you still discard. It's fine. I you have to think about like what options we have access to, and like being a 1 mana legend that's also blue, right? So snapback enjoyers, maybe you care about that. That's a relevant thing. But if you want another one drop, like Skrill is still fine to play, right? Just having more protection for your Sisay is always a good thing. If your meta is running way too much heat, right? So yeah, I think that's pretty much most of like the deck this discussion. There's nothing really else I could talk about it. I guess I'll probably go record the test hands. Yeah. So here, first of all, this hand's pretty bad. At first glance, because you have two of your main combo pieces, and we don't even have a way to cast your Card of Flowers, and that's just really bad for us. We're gonna at best turn to Arcane Signet into a Card of Flowers. It's like that's not really where you want to be at, right? I mean, you can consider if you have like an Urza in the table. I mean, definitely not my meta, right? Sure, but I wouldn't really consider this hand. I'd rather have like a more stable hand than this, and it's not interactive. So let's go ahead and mull that. So this was actually kind of playable. You could turn one Path of Ancestry into like depending on like what's on the board. Like you have a red player, probably play this. If not, Shivan Reef, right? And Ruby helps with like the 4 mana into your Sisay, and then Relic of Legends is here as another good way to make mana. So maybe along the line, maybe you're gonna do the Yoreth line because you already have Relic of Legends in play, and so on and so forth, right? And you also have like a piece of interaction here. So kind of lucked out a bit, but I wouldn't say this is lucky hand. Like it doesn't even look lucky. Like you don't have Soul Ring, Arcane Signet. Like this is not an unattainable hand. Like this could literally be like 4 lands, a Catilda, and then Enduring Vitality plus like Source of Plowshares. That's like a fine hand to keep, right? Like you're okay with keeping hands like this because it just does everything. You have interaction, you have mana, you have a plan. Um, like you've mathed out like your mana development, like around turn 4, you're going to have like how much mana? Like turn 2 Ruby, that's 3 mana, that's 4 mana into turn 4. I mean, turn 3, you cast your Relic of Legends, cast Sisay, pass turn. On turn 4, you're gonna have like 4 lands, 1, 2, 3 mana, so like 7 mana total on turn 4. So again, like you're in a good spot with this. I'll keep this. Let's go play the hand out, right? I'll draw for turn, guess a Hilly Rai, fine. I'll play this as land for turn, I'll pass. Uh, let's say I have to use Shivan Reef, right? I'll play Ruby. I have a Scry trigger, which is really nice. And here's why we run the card. Because we're about to draw one of our combo pieces. I'll just bottom this, right? We don't really want to draw that card, so get it away. And then now we pass turn, right? Okay, that's really cool. We have extra protection as well for Sisay, right? So we're gonna untap, upkeep, and draw. We're going to play this land for turn. Um, show. Yeah, I'll probably get this Relic of Legends out and as well as tap, right? So when Sisay enters, now you have like protection. Like if she gets countered, come on, like she really, I'm not even winning, and you're gonna counter. Like okay, sure, whatever, right? Just rebuild. But if they do that, like bro, it's like weird. But you go next to your next turn, untap, upkeep, and draw. You play your land for turn, and then happily play your Sisay. Also, this is not a human, so just to think about that. Don't confuse the thing. So Sisay will have a scry trigger. Ooh, maybe consideration. I don't know. That's something to think about. But I'll probably just like keep it on top because we do actually have enough mana to like go for a spin here, and our Sisay is like 1, 2, 3. It's like a 5-5 right now, and like we are in a good spot to win. Okay, maybe they should have countered your Sisay. But let's say they didn't, right? Okay, that's crazy. Like you have a 5/5 Sisay and they let it resolve. Okay, bro, with like enough mana to spin, yeah, sure. But like your Sisay might die, question mark. But at least you won't be hit by Swords of Plowshares. That's good enough, and you can give your Sisay protection. There's so much, to think about, and you could like stop someone from winning. Okay, like you're good, right? So let's say you pass the turn here, okay, like, oh look, like nothing happened, right? And then like you go to your next turn, like, you tap them for all the colored mana, and then go search for like Salvala, right? You could do that. That's one way to do it. I would probably just go get Kutzil and get extra protection, right? Because we currently have enough mana to just do the Dehada line, right? So we're gonna untap, upkeep, and draw. And this is kind of like where your deck mastery comes in. Like you can't just default into uh one shooter every single game. Because like if I tutor Salvala and then some reason they have a removal spell for everything, right? Let's say for now they have a reason to remove Kudzil, but like what can you hit with Kudzil? Um, Nothing really, right? Like, swords. What else? You can't really hit swords on her, so like, you're fine. You're fine. And then now you have like enough mana to go search for Dihada because you're currently like a 6/6 SA, right? Because you have one, two, three, and four. That's a Dihada. Great. And then mill these three cards, right? So one, two, three, and four. You make four treasure tokens, crack all of them, search again. I'll go look for my Aminatu, right? And so on and so forth. We basically win the game from this point, right? You flicker, right? So let's go for another one as a final way to like wrap up the video. This hand, not great. One lander doesn't take too much to figure out like this hand's pretty bad. As our second seven looks pretty dog, so we are actually comfortable going down to six, right? So we go to six. This is a fairly interesting hand. I think we can actually keep it, but it's like very very close. Unless we like draw into more lands, this might be very very hard, but it's not unwinnable, right? We might just have enough. What do you call this? We just might have enough development, and like 33 lands has like good enough chance of like hitting that second drop by turn two, right? So I'm just gonna I'm not gonna go down to five because I know we have a plan here. So we could get really punished here. I'm just gonna go take the L here and like just get punished myself, right? So go ahead and draw for turn. Okay, so that's a courtyard. That's good. I'm gonna play this gemstone mine. I'm going to go ahead and cast this elvish mystic, and then I'll pass turn. On top upkeep and draw. We can use that for enduring vitality, and now we can like kind of chill a bit using the gemstone mine because it's gonna sacrifice itself soon. But I mean, it did its job, right? So I'll go ahead and pass the turn. Now, what I wanna do now is just cast Tam and like just chill out for a bit, right? Like we can't really do anything right now, and our gemstone mine's gonna sacrifice itself soon. So I'm just gonna pass and just hold up interaction, quote unquote, and then be happy with that. So I'm gonna play this land for turn. Then I'm going to tap this play Sisay, right? I mean, we still have interaction through unsubstantiate, but let's say it doesn't get what do you call this? Countered, and we're happy, right? We're pretty happy. Now, my thought process here is a little bit weird. I don't exactly know if we go for Marvin route here, but there is like a world do where we do that, right? But let me think, cause like Marvin gets us like a haste enabler, but then we also have Sahili, right? So it's like a little weird that way. Um, but the problem as well is like if we go get Salvala right now as well, it's like kind of weird, right? So again, like a lot of these, you know, choices could be kind of hard to navigate. But let's say I don't care. Like I'm just gonna go ahead and pass. Like you know, Maybe we have like a better choice in a future turn, right? And like let's say I had to like interact, like sure, show you the unsubstantiate, whatever, or like I'll show you a serum snare and like proliferate. Okay, sure. And then go to my next turn, untap, upkeep, and draw. Now in this position, we actually have like 7 mana total, and there is a potential win line by sacrificing our Tam, right? Which is I'm not gonna say like it's not ballsy, but it really is ballsy, right? Um, but let's see. Let's see if like we do it because we have 5 mana play here to grab our Fabro Elder and then Sahili Rai, but then we're gonna need the black mana, right? Just something to think about. But I guess let's do it, right? Let's see what we do. Uninteracted, maybe, but if we have to really consider our position here, maybe we can just pass turn, get a protection piece. But let's say, what if, you have to act now? You saw a window, you want to win right now. How do we do it, right? So the line I can think of here is, you can kind of get your Dihada. You only have 7 mana total, which is not really enough to go for the Dihada line, if I'm not mistaken, because you need one for Aminatu, one for Out of the Fairy, and one for Dragon Ballas, and you don't have it here. So that's out of the question. You don't have a haste enabler. Well, you kind of do, but like you wouldn't want to spin for it. So there's that. So the only play pattern I could think of is like I could tap this for green and blue. I'll Neoform Tam. So Sisay loses like 2 counters, but you will grab your Fabaro Elder, right? Right now, Fabaro Elder can tap for green and white, so only like three things basically. Here is a 1, 2, 3, casting Sahili Rai. Now your Sisay is tapping for like, I mean, that's 2 more pips, right? Again. And then we can actually like -2 Sahili Rai to make an artifact copy of the Fabro Elder, which has haste, right? Um, so yeah, it has haste, but you're gonna remove this at the end of the turn, right? Exile it. So now that our Fabro Elder can tap for some mana, I'll go ahead and do that. Here's f- green, white, blue, red, right? So green, white, blue, red, and then the black from this dice. I'll go get Tyvar, right? So now Tyvar gives us our black. So we get SSA goes up again by one, actually 2 more. Cause yeah, we're just lacking white here. And now Favor Elder can now tap for mana because it has haste, quote unquote. And you can also untap this Favor Elder here. So let's just say I don't have to untap it. I'm just gonna do this, right? Have Wooburg, like all 5 colors. Here's an Aminatu, right? I'll flicker the Sahili Rai, which I will then make another copy of the Fabro Elder, right? I'm gonna go ahead and Oath of Teferi, I guess. And then Oath of Teferi is going to, let's just exile this. It has an, don't forget, like Oath of Teferi has an exile thing where you have to exile another target permanent I control. So it comes back anyways at the end of the turn. But I can exile Aminatu again for Sahili Rai comes back. I'll make another Fabro Elder and then tap this for another 5 mana. Go grab the Nicol Bolas, Dragon God, and then boom, like you win from here, right? Pretty good. So these are kind of the games that you play out, right? It might not like come very obvious, but just having a good understanding of your creatures and like what they do is a pretty good, way to like attack the deck with. So yeah, I mean that's pretty much all of what I could really teach about the deck. I mean, if you have you know, other questions about it, just feel free to ask. But yeah, that's Sisay to you, and I hope you enjoy.